SpongeBob SquarePants is one of the most watched kids' cartoons in TV history. But did you know that throughout the more than 300 episodes of the show, several characters have actually lost their lives on screen? Out of everyone on this list, the SpongeBob character who definitely kicked the bucket is the infamous Flying Dutchman, the most feared ghost in all of Bikini Bottom. He even tells part of his story in the Halloween episode Squarepants. There, we learn that long before becoming a glowing green ghostly figure who loves scaring Bikini Bottom's residents, he was a feared pirate of the seven seas, known for attacking ships and stealing treasure on the open ocean. But according to his own words, his body was never properly buried, and that doomed him to roam the seas forever aboard his ghost ship. But how exactly did he die? There's a little clue that most fans never noticed. At the start of one episode, we can see a skeleton on a pirate ship still holding tightly onto the wheel. All signs point to that skeleton being the Flying Dutchman himself, who likely went down with his ship and treasure, confirming that his body was never buried. And that's why he now haunts the area of Bikini Bottom where his shipwreck happened. Did you know that? Our list is just getting started, and it's going to blow your mind. We all know that Mr. Krabs is a single dad who's been raising Pearl all by himself ever since SpongeBob first aired over 20 years ago. What few people know is that, according to a SpongeBob trivia book, Mr. Krabs was once married to a Mrs. Krabs, Pearl's real mother, which proves that the teenage whale is not adopted, as many fans once believed. This clearly means that Mrs. Krabs, who was without a doubt a whale, is no longer among the living. Or better said, no longer among the creatures of the sea. Also, the show's creators have revealed that series creator Steven Hillenburg received countless letters asking for Pearl's origin story. As a result, a script for a double-length special revealing Pearl's backstory and the identity of her mother was written during Season 5 and even reached early development stages. However, the episode was shelved for an unknown period because Hillenburg didn't like the concept, and now it will never be finished since Hillenburg himself passed away a few years ago. One thing's certain, Pearl's mother is now in whale heaven, no longer living among the residents of the seafloor. Jumping straight into SpongeBob's own family, let's talk about the only confirmed member of the Squarepants clan who's definitely gone to the sea heaven above. We're talking about Grandpa Squarepants, Harold's father and SpongeBob's grandfather. We know he's dead because he never appears physically in the series, only in SpongeBob's memories. He also doesn't live with Grandma Squarepants, which tells us the poor old lady is a widow. But we do know that his genes are still going strong, because SpongeBob and his grandpa look almost identical in their old age versions. Now let's talk about something truly disturbing that we discovered in one of the creepiest SpongeBob episodes ever. In the episode, Have You Seen This Snail?, Gary gets upset with SpongeBob because he's too focused on a silly game and forgets to feed him. After running away, Gary ends up living with an elderly lady. But after a few days, he discovers a secret room filled with dozens of snail shells, victims that the old woman had literally killed by overfeeding them. Seriously, they all died. Gary would have been next if he hadn't escaped and gone back to SpongeBob. But all those other snails, whose names we never even learned, definitely make it onto our list.
Oh dear. Oh, the meatloaf's not quite ready yet, but Grandma knows how hungry you are, Miss Tuftsy.
In another episode of the series, we see Plankton and Mr. Krabs talking about the last time SpongeBob's boss's arch-rival actually had a customer. At that moment, the villain himself points to a table, and we can clearly see the skeleton of what appears to be a rodent next to a half-eaten Krabby Patty covered in cobwebs. This pretty much suggests that the poor creature's cause of death was the disgusting food served at the Chum Bucket, proving that what you eat can definitely affect your future. Poor thing. When it comes to eating things that could literally kill you in SpongeBob, our list is just getting started. In the episode Nasty Patty, we witness not only a death, but also an attempted murder committed by none other than Mr. Krabs, with SpongeBob as his accomplice. After watching a news report on TV about someone impersonating a health inspector to eat for free, the duo decides to prepare the most disgusting Krabby Patty ever made and serve it to the inspector. But before he can even take a bite, the inspector chokes on a fly, slips, and accidentally smashes his head on a table. SpongeBob and his boss immediately assume he died from the gross patty they served him, and instead of calling for help, they accept his death and go as far as to bury the body at night to get rid of the evidence. The shocking part is that, miraculously, the guy survives and even comes back to the Krusty Krab. But there's no doubt he had a near-death experience. If you're into movies, video games, and even animated shows from pop culture, then you definitely don't want to miss the chance to subscribe to the channel right now. The health inspector's story isn't the only near-death experience caused by food poisoning in the series, and apparently Mr. Krabs has some experience with this subject. Back when he was young and dreamed of becoming successful alongside his best friend Plankton, the two created the very first Krabby Patty. They used Old Man Jenkins as their test subject, but the burger was so horribly bad that the old fish seemingly kicked the bucket right after swallowing the first bite. Old Man Jenkins didn't actually die, but he definitely came way too close to the pearly gates that day.
Crab patties KO old Man J.
Even SpongeBob himself and his best friend Patrick have had a few close calls with death throughout the series. But without a doubt, the most unforgettable near-death moment happens in the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, when our heroes are left by the French narrator, yes, that guy from the episodes, inside a heat lamp chamber where they're supposed to dry out and die. Things get so intense that SpongeBob's arm even cracks when he tries to shield himself from the deadly light. By some miracle that only happens in cartoons, they manage to escape certain death, but it was way too close for comfort. But besides almost dying, SpongeBob is basically the Jack the Ripper of the Seven Seas. The strongest proof of that happens in the episode where Squidward needs to undergo surgery and by accident ends up being operated on by SpongeBob himself, whom everyone believes to be a renowned doctor in Bikini Bottom. The result, SpongeBob SquarePants manages to rip out his grumpy neighbor's heart, and it gets even worse. Squidward is completely dismembered by his coworker to the point where he even becomes a sushi dish, with chopped pieces of him and everything. Of course, thanks to some Nickelodeon miracle, he somehow survives in the end and goes right back to being the same grumpy neighbor as always. Another character who almost kicked the bucket was the one SpongeBob himself idolized, Kenny the cat. The feline, who somehow ended up under the sea, supposedly had the ability to breathe underwater, but that was a huge lie. In reality, Kenny could hold his breath for a long time, but he still needed oxygen just like any other mammal. To keep up the lie, he nearly drowned several times throughout the episode until he just can't take it anymore and finally admits that he uses an oxygen tank to stay underwater. And honestly, he almost turned into a ghost cat because of that lie. Even the most money-hungry creature in Bikini Bottom almost had his life end in a tragic way. Of course, we're talking about Mr. Krabs. It all happens in the episode Dying for Pie, where the Krusty Krab owner forces Squidward to take part in Employee Appreciation Day and buy a present for SpongeBob. Impatient, Squidward quickly buys a pie from some pirates, without realizing it's actually a bomb disguised as dessert. He then leaves the pie on his boss's desk, and to make sure Squidward did everything right, Mr. Krabs decides to taste a small piece, which would have been the end of him if he had. The greedy crab's luck is that he goes to get some milk to drink with the pie slice, which accidentally falls to the floor and blows the entire office to pieces. In other words, if he had eaten it, Mr. Krabs would have literally turned into thousands of tiny pieces. But hold on, the money-obsessed crab wasn't the only one who almost lost his life because of that bomb pie. When Squidward and Mr. Krabs realize what happened, they panic, thinking SpongeBob had eaten the rest of the bomb pie and could explode at any second, turning into thousands of little yellow sponge pieces. Trying to make him happy on what they believe to be his last day alive, the grumpy neighbor fulfills all of SpongeBob's wishes. But in the end, the pie had been in SpongeBob's pocket the whole time because he wanted to share it with his best friend, Squidward. Then SpongeBob trips, and the pie lands on the clarinet player's face, causing a massive explosion that should have killed Squidward. But we only hear him say, "Ouch." And the episode ends on a much less tragic note than anyone expected. But seriously, that one was way too close. We're wrapping up this video, but if you love having your mind blown, this is the place to be. That's why we picked 2 great videos for you to click, watch, and, best of all, keep hanging out with us.